Your friend makes a mistake, a bad one. Maybe they said something wrong. Maybe they hurt someone. Maybe they completely fell apart. And they come to you, nervous, ashamed, apologizing. And within minutes, you've already forgiven them. Hey, it's okay. You're human. These things happen. And you mean it. But then something strange happens. 3 years later, you're lying in bed. It's 2 a.m. The room is quiet. And out of nowhere, you remember a mistake you made. Not even a big one. Maybe something you said in a conversation. Maybe a decision that didn't work out. Maybe just a moment where you weren't enough. And your stomach drops. You replay it again and again. Every angle, every detail, like your mind turned into a courtroom and you're the only one on trial. You cringe at it. You punish yourself for it. You lose sleep over it. Even though if your friend came to you with that exact same mistake, you'd say, that's nothing. Don't even worry about it. So here's the question nobody actually stops to ask. Why are you so incredibly forgiving until the person who needs forgiveness is you? And here's the strange part. Most people assume this happens because they secretly hate themselves. But here's what's strange. The people who punish themselves the hardest are often the same people everyone else describes as kind, the ones everyone turns to for advice, the ones who stay calm during chaos, the ones who seem the most emotionally put together. Which means this isn't about self-hatred. Something else is happening here. And before you assume this is about confidence or childhood wounds or self-worth, consider this. The same part of you that punishes you at 2 a.m. is the same part that keeps you reliable. The same thing that replays your mistakes makes sure you don't repeat them. So here's the real question. If it hurts you, why would you keep it around? Because somewhere along the way, you learned that being hard on yourself served a purpose. It kept you careful. It kept you prepared. It convinced you that letting go was the same thing as not caring. And if that's true, the question isn't, why can't I forgive myself? The real question is, what do I think will happen if I do? Now think about the people you've actually forgiven. The friend who lied, the person who let you down, the one who never even apologized properly. Somehow, you found a way to move on, to understand them, to let them remain human in your eyes. But when it's your mistake, something shifts. Forgiveness suddenly requires something different. It requires perfection first, a standard you have never once asked anyone else to meet. And here's what makes this specific to people like you. When someone else fails, you automatically factor in context. They were stressed. They didn't mean it. They were doing their best. But when you fail, context disappears entirely. All that remains is the outcome, isolated, enlarged, on repeat. And the more empathy you have, the worse this gets, because the same emotional intelligence that lets you understand everyone else turns against you when the subject is yourself. You're not lacking compassion. You're applying it everywhere except one place. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Almost every person who does this says some version of the same thing when they talk about their own mistakes. Not I made a mistake, but I should have known better. I should have done better. I should have been better. And that one word, should, reveals everything. Because should doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from an image of who you're supposed to be, responsible, capable, someone who doesn't mess up like that. And every mistake doesn't just feel like a failure. It feels like evidence that the gap between who you are and who you think you should be is bigger than you want to admit. And that gap is what you're actually suffering from, not the mistake, the gap. Here's the part nobody talks about. Most people spend years trying to forgive specific moments, that conversation, that decision, that version of themselves they wish they could erase. But think about what forgiveness actually means when you give it to someone else. You're not saying the mistake didn't happen. You're not saying it didn't hurt. You're saying, I understand enough about you to know this moment isn't the whole story. But when it comes to yourself, you've decided the mistake is the whole story. You've removed the context. You've removed the intention. You've removed everything except the part that confirms what you are already afraid of. And here's what's quietly devastating about this. People who do this don't do it because they think they're worse than everyone else. They do it because they think they're responsible, that everyone else gets to be human, but they have to be something more, something that doesn't need forgiveness, something that shouldn't have needed it in the first place. And here's the question that should stay with you long after this video ends. You've forgiven people who lied to you, people who let you down, people who never even asked for it, but you're still holding a trial for yourself. Not because you're cruel, not because you hate yourself, but because somewhere along the way, you made a quiet decision that grace was something you give to people who are simply human, and you had to be more than that. So the real question isn't whether you can forgive yourself. The real question is, when did you decide that everyone else deserved grace just for being human, but you had to earn it? And more importantly, who taught you that?